Hi everybody and welcome to today's video. Today I am reviewing another pen from Yookers. Today's pen is this. This is the Gaia from Yookers, and Yookers make felt tip pens that use fountain pen ink. You can see the Yookers on the window there. I have in the past reviewed and done a couple other videos around the Metis, which is a similar functionality of pen in a very, very different body. And I think this one is a really lovely alternative to that that covers a couple of bits of, design that a couple of people were not, well, a number of people were not so keen on with the Metis. I think they'll find something here that they are really much more akin to, which is good. So this is the blue-black marble resin. It also comes in an orange-black and a red-black. And this one has gunmetal plating on the clip there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk through the parts and the features of this pen, do a little writing sample, pros and cons, and all that sort of wonderful stuff. So the top of the pen, it's just the acrylic, nice polished dome there. Cap sort of swells out to a very smooth, rounded edge of the band there, a cap there. Then a little bit of a dip down in the barrel and swells back out through the clear window, then back down again, and then to a sort of flat bottom on the pen there. So one flat and one rounded edge. It's an interesting design, and having that little bulbous section there in the middle of the clear window is, yeah, quite interesting. It is a screw cap, and it unscrews in just under half a turn. And as you can see, it is a felt tip pen. Now this is the 0.8, which is their extra fine. It also comes in a 1mm, which is their fine, a 1.2, which is their medium, and a 1.4, which is their broad. It's got a plastic grip section that does, sort of taper quite strongly. Smooth threads, a little bit of a ridge there where the cap joins the barrel, but it's okay. And generally, the pen is very, very well finished, smooth edges, and a nice polished design. Let's have a quick look at the packaging because that's kind of cool. So it's not quite fitting all in the frame. It's just a clear, a plain white cardboard sleeve over a nice black box with the sort of the Yookers design there on the front. And then it comes sitting in this sort of like foam filler, which gives them ample space for things like extra, when you take these bits out, so they can package extra tips and converters and things like that. Mine just came with a cartridge. It was provided for review by Yookers, and it came with a standard black ink cartridge, which is what I have in there now. Now it does take standard international cartridge and converter. As I said, this is just a standard short cartridge. It can also take a long cartridge or a standard converter. I would suggest you try them in there if it's not provided with one, just to make sure it does fit. The price of this pen is interesting. It's $89 US, which is a lot of money for a felt tip pen. But this is a novel one that uses fountain pen ink, so you do have the option to have any ink in there whatsoever. And for an extra $19, you can replace the section here with a different width if you decide to change. And that just comes without the cartridge in there like that. It's all nicely done, as I said, nicely polished and finished, and the threads are all very smooth. Let's look at a couple of look at a size comparison to just a couple of pens, and then some specs and a writing sample. So here we have the Gaia. I'm going to put it alongside two pens. Firstly, just a Sharpie fine liner and a Lamy Safari fountain pen. So you can see that when it's capped, it's actually not a super small pen. It's not particularly long, but it's got really lovely girth. If we look at the sections of some of these, you'll just see how very it does taper quite strongly, but it's got a nice sort of girth to it when it's in its full length. if we look at a couple of these posted now, and the Gaia does post very nicely, you can see it is once again on the shorter side. But it's not a small pen, and it does feel pretty decent sized in the hand. If we look at the specs of it now, when it is capped, the pen is 132 millimeters. Uncapped, it's 116, which is just on the, I suppose it's definitely a writable length. You wouldn't want it to be much shorter than that. And then posted, it's 151, so quite a comfortable length. And because that's got a nice rounded edge on the cap there, you don't feel it at all. If you hold the pen slightly further back, you do get it on that little ridge, which you do notice, but it's not super sharp. So the section goes from 12 millimeters at the threads to 9 millimeters at coming up towards the tip there. So it does taper quite a lot. The pen weighs 19.5 grams by my scale, which is 12 in the body and 7.5 in the cap. So there's a little bit of back weighting, but it's not too bad. And I don't think it throws the balance off too much, particularly with the girth of this pen. So I've been writing with this pen the last few days, so it should start up fairly easily. We've got the Yuccas. It's 2 dots above the I. Gaia. This is a 0.8 millimeter felt tip. And so this is a generic black cartridge. I do think that there are better cartridges, and I've used Diamine in my other ones, and I think that the ink in that is more suitable. This is a fairly dry ink, so it doesn't lay down a particularly super wet or saturated line. You know, it's a felt tip pen, so it's not going to lay down the same amount of ink as a fountain pen, and in a way that's good because it can do some of the things you like to do, work on some paper that a fountain pen won't work on, but it still gives you the ability to use the fountain pen ink in this pen. So yeah, this is the 0.8. Nice, perfectly smooth writing experience. But I do have to say, there are some issues with this pen drying out. Now, it is a function, I think, to a degree to do with the ink, because it happens with the Metis as well, just not to the same extent as this. Right here, I'm just going to insert a little video I made a few days ago of this pen where I write with it for the first time. I think it was in 10 days. Okay, just a quick cut in here into the review. This is the Gaia. I've not used this pen for almost 2 weeks now to see just how it starts back up. And I wanted to use it, but not waste this time for the review. So I thought I'd just cut this in here. So this is the Yuccas Gaia felt tip pen. It's just got the cartridge that came in it. We'll just have a quick look and see how it starts. So you can see after almost 2 weeks, it's dried out. And then once it gets going, it's absolutely fine. You can leave this pen a few days, I've found, and it's fine. 2 weeks does take a little bit to get going, but once it is going, it's great. It's certainly not dried out. It's just, the tip just needs to be rehydrated. Anyway, back to the rest of the review. What are the pros and the cons of this pen? Well, obviously, let's start with the one that we just sort of saw. It is the fact that the pen does dry out. The cap seal, I don't think, is particularly strong on this pen. It's okay, particularly if you're using the pen frequently. But if you do leave it for a week, 10 days, 2 weeks, it is going to take a little bit to get started because the ink does just dry in the tip. Eventually, of course, it will also mean the ink would dry in the cartridge. Another con for me with this pen is the fact that sometimes these threads cross-thread very easily. Now, that's easy to fix. You just, when you go and you cross threads a little bit, you just turn it back the other way and it lines itself up. but it does cross thread occasionally, like that. So easy fix. The other issue I have with this, is a design issue. Now, I don't mind these little bulbous section around the window. I quite like the gunmetal plating and the general shape of the pen. I really like the material, and I think that this actually, in terms of a general aesthetic, suits me quite nicely. But the issue I have is if you're using this with a short cartridge, the window is just in slightly the wrong place for me. So either the window could be further down and we get the whole short cartridge in, or it's narrower or something. You can see what's in there, and with a converter it goes past that point, but with a short cartridge you're just left with this gap. And for me, design wise, that just doesn't quite look amazing, particularly with the rest of the aesthetic of the pen. Particularly I love that gunmetal on the clip. I think that's great. They've not just gone with a plain silver chrome. So that's just a little thing that I'm not a huge fan of. There are plenty of pros with a pen like this. Firstly, the fact that it uses fountain pen ink is a massive pro. I think that's awesome. I like that it's lightweight. You can use it easily, no worries, for hours. And unlike the Metis with that sort of slimmer metal section, this is very comfortable and doesn't get slippery at all. I like the fact that you can get different tip widths and that you can buy those for a relatively reasonable price. So if you decide you wanted something narrower or broader, you can get that. I think it has decent flow. It's not a super wet flow, as I said, also a property of the ink, but it's got a nice flow, particularly for paper that isn't fountain pen friendly. The other thing I love about this pen is that it is well finished. It's smooth, it's shiny. The seams on that window are perfect. You can barely feel them. It's just a really nice pen. And if you're looking for a felt tip pen that does use fountain pen ink, or wanting something just a little bit different, this is a really nice option. It's not, it's not going to be for everybody. And I think there's a few people who don't agree with the fountain pen ink and felt tip markers, but this pen is designed for that, and I think it is a really lovely option. So this was the Yookers Gaia felt tip pen, and in the blue-black marble finish. I hope you found this video interesting and useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notifications button if you want to stay up to date with the videos that I produce. Please feel free to get in touch using any of the platforms listed below. You can find me on Instagram or Twitter at @the_offstage_me, or you can contact me on any of my videos here, or drop me an email which is listed down below. If you have products you think I should be looking at, or if there's a way you'd like to support the channel by sponsoring a review or providing an item for review, I would love to hear from you. It's your support, like Yookers here, that make this channel possible. In the meantime, enjoy your pens, be they fountain pen, ballpoint, rollerball, felt tip, whatever gets you writing on paper, and I'll talk to you soon.